Hello and welcome to Tarot with Tanya. This is 7 cards for 7 days. And we are looking at the week of Monday, September 29th, which happens to be a sister's birthday, to Sunday. Oh, and I forgot to write that down. What is that? Let me look quick for us. In the meantime, please take everything through your own filter. I encourage all of us to be working on our intuition. So that would be October 5th, Sunday the 5th. You know, when I'm doing a reading for the collective or anybody is, then, you know, take what resonates for you, leave the rest behind. And thank you so much for being here. Especially welcome if you're here for the first time, and as I said before, welcome back if you have not been here, if you have been here before. So I will talk a little bit about the astrology for the week, and then I am using the Witch's Way deck for the tarot, and then we'll end with the Tree Keeper's Oracle. So this week, of course, we have the sun in Libra still, and we start our week with the moon in Sagittarius, so we have fire there. And, you know, foreign travel, foreign relations, higher education, philosophy, can be the law, court cases, things like that. And then we move into the more earthy, grounded Capricorn energy, kind of a sign of business, leadership, the teacher, making structural decisions. Again, grounded because it's earthy. And then we'll go to the moon in Aquarius, and then we move into the air element. So we've got them all this week. We start with the fire, then we go to the earth, then we're in the air. Aquarius, sign of the humanitarian. Perhaps, you know, very innovative thinking, perhaps, you know, going toward the crazy a bit, at least in some people's eyes, but very much concerned about justice for humanity and moving us forward to more progressive ways. And then we'll end with the moon in Pisces on that Sunday. And that's our water, so the fourth element that we recognize, and the collective unconscious, very creative, dreamy, not like Capricorn, not good for making decisions and, you know, executive decisions, but more for blending and flowing. All right. And it is a waxing moon. We just had the eclipse with the moon in Virgo, and that was a new moon, so it's growing right now toward that full moon eventually. Otherwise, we still have Saturn retrograde in late Pisces, and so, you know, those retrogrades are taking us back over territory we've already been in, and I love the Sabian symbols. It's Sabian. There are at least a couple of interpretations of those out there. It's a lot to go over, so I don't cover them on the channel, but I do encourage you to learn about them. Every degree, so 360, has a Sabian symbol. And these planets hit these particular, you know, points as they're moving forward, backward, you know, which we call retrograde. They're not really moving backwards. It just appears that way to us. But, you know, we are going over some spiritual territory again, looking at lessons and deepening those. In general, it feels to me like we also have Uranus and Neptune retrograde, that we really have this reflecting on what's been going on, the past, personally, collectively, I think socially, politically, in all kinds of ways. And it feels like clearing out stuck stuff. I just had that conversation with a couple of friends this weekend that it is this energy that, there might be feeling stuck for a bit, then moving forward, then feeling stuck and moving forward. And I think the cards show some of that this week too. So that's Saturn in late Pisces. It'll come back into Aries. I don't remember exactly when it does that, but that's, when after it finishes the retrograde, it'll start to go forward. Again, covering that ground. And Uranus is retrograde in early Gemini. So our ideas, our thoughts, that's what they call the lower mind. Mercury rules Gemini. Mercury is the lower mind. Uranus is the higher mind. So the higher mind and lower mind are, meeting up here. And then Neptune is in early Aries, which is much more comfortable in Pisces. It rules Pisces. It's not so comfortable in Aries, but it is backing up toward that critical degree. I think they call it anaretic, right at the beginning. Those very ending and very beginning degrees of each sign are really important. So lots of chances for us to go back into that Pisces territory. Our spiritual beliefs, our actions, then come forward as both of those planets, Saturn and Neptune, go back into Pisces, and then they'll go into Aries with that new information and put things more into action. So that's kind of where we are with that. And then otherwise, just this week, we do have Mercury squaring Jupiter on Wednesday, which will be the first day of October. So it's a day that could make us really just want to have blind trust, but that's not a good idea. Mercury, again, lower mind, information. Jupiter expands everything, so it could feel like, oh, I can go do this thing, but with the square, it makes it tricky. So we want to be careful of excesses, of being arrogant. But if we plan carefully, it can be very good for making some, financial decisions that could help us. All right. So that's our astrology for the week. And the cards, very interesting because, there are 4 pages because we have 4 suits, and we had 3 out of the 4 today. So that to me emphasizes new energy coming in, new information, new feelings, new ways of being. So we start the week with our Monday, the 29th, with the Page of Cups. And this is the emotional sign, the psychic, the intuitive, the water, the cup suite. And this can be a very loving dot. I love the face on these witches. I mean, they're pretty funny. This is not necessarily a youthful looking being. Often the pages are considered young. Sometimes they're called daughters or princesses. But here, a little bit more savvy looking character, but standing in the water. I don't know if we're supposed to take that as a kind of walking on water or what. But holding up that cup, and all the gulls are circling behind, and the starfish is there very prominently. So there's a wishing quality to this, a dreamy quality, and perhaps a kind of an opening in our psychic selves and getting some information. And it can be a person in our lives, or again, an energy we express. We stay with the pages on Tuesday, going with the swords this time. Now this one often has this different kind of footing. When we had our Page of Cups, yes, both feet seem to be in the water or on the water. Here, and it's typical of the Page of Swords, one foot is down, one foot's lifted a little bit. Air is not grounding, right? Air is uplifting. Air is passing information. It has ideas. It represents words. So sometimes with this card, there's an association of cutting through the crap. Cutting through the crap can be moods, thoughts, things people say. Our person here has this wonderful, can I interpret that? Sort of double bird thing going on in the cape, and again we have some, I think, gulls in the background, and I feel like that has to do with that idea of information. So I'll bring it in so you can see it a bit more closely. But yeah, dispelling moods, bringing us new ideas, bringing in some information. So we may learn something pretty significant this week. Again, it could be on the personal or the collective level. We stay with the swords on Wednesday, and this can be a pretty emotionally tough one. It is still thoughts, so we are dealing with our own thoughts. It's an inward card. All the nines are pretty inward. They're connected to the Hermit or the Crone in some decks. And there can be a lot of introspection there, and this is, some people call this the dark night of the soul. Really, what's keeping you up at night? What are you punishing yourself with? Like in the Thoth deck, it's called cruelty, and that cruelty is aimed toward the self. So we want to watch for that. It can be good, as I said, we're in all these retrogrades, to go back, reflect on something, but then let it go. So that could be one of those sort of holding on or jamming up moments, but use it to let energy flow through. And remember that these are just thought forms. They can be pointed, sharp, thought forms aimed at the self, and just like, why am I doing this? What's happened to me that I would think this way? And then try to let it go. We have our one and only major card this week on Thursday, and that's the Hanged Man, or Hanged One, I like to say. And this is number 12 in the majors, which reduces to a 3, so it has a connection to the Empress. But before it gets to that Empress, it is a moment of flipping things upside down, letting the blood rush to the head, and seeing from a different perspective. So here we have our cross that seems to be rising almost out of a wave, and the bird, a big bird there in the nest. I love this. I've never seen this on a Hanged Man card before. The bird and the nest on the knee, the bent knee of our witch here, that's hanging upside down. It connects to the myth of Odin, going to the world tree, the Yggdrasil there, and needing to change the way things were, to hang upside down in a death-like state, and to get a new start, a new perspective, a new vision. So that'll be interesting again if we're processing out the old. What new stuff can come in by flipping that vision? And if you're so inclined and able to, could be good to hang upside down in some way, do a headstand, or hang your head a little bit, carefully, minding your neck, off of a bed or a couch or something like that, and just see how that alters the state. And 3s are flow and harmony and abundance, so there's good stuff with that. And overall this week we have a balance between the masculine and the feminine in terms of the elements, some pentacles and then some swords. So we're back to the pentacles here, and this one is the number 5, and that will connect it to the Hierophant. I don't know if you're the kitty in the background, she's talking. And it's one of those human lessons of feeling like I have enough or not. Do I have enough? How am I going to get by? So you see a couple of people, perhaps an elderly couple here, ragged clothing, crutches involved, and yet walking by a spiritual center. The stained glass window, perhaps of a church. Is there sustenance that we are ignoring? Do we need, again, to go inward in this, retrograde, retrospective time, and see what our resources might really be? And I would put that emphasis on our spiritual resources, and maybe reaching out if help is needed, or paying attention to others who do need help. And given, what's going on in this country, there could be a lot more people in that situation soon, with our healthcare crisis and so forth. So that was our Friday. On Saturday, we're still with the Pentacles, and we get that final page, as I mentioned, the third one for this week. In part, I'm using this deck because we're moving into the month of October, and here in the States, we celebrate Halloween, day before Day of the Dead. And this reminds me of that. It's got a bit of the scarecrow, though very pilgrim-like in the costume as well. It's interesting. But this person wears a mask, and I find that quite fascinating too. And it's almost like the pentacle here has been manifested almost out of thin air. Sometimes you'll see a pregnant woman, young woman, because it's a youthful card in some decks. And so it's manifesting something. It's bringing something forward. It could be very concrete news of a sort. It feels that here, the mask is always like we're doing it from a place that we're not of ego, but of something else, something deeper. And I feel like it's very true. And then you have a sort of, I think, a badger there in the background as a kind of a spirit animal that's very earthy, burrowing, digging into things. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on that day. It could be a person, a very earthy, young, feminine energy. Doesn't have to be female, but a feminine energy. Then we end the week with the 8 of Swords, and we had the 9 earlier, remember? So it's kind of like stop punishing the self with negative thinking, and this one is more like not seeing the self as trapped, not seeing the self as bound. All the 8s are under the Strength card in this deck, and that is one of the majors, of course, and how we develop our inner strength. And this is one of the ways we can see ourselves as trapped by illusions. This person feels bound up, feels, what's the word, gagged. It does look like there's not gagged, but blindfolded. And generally not able to get out of this. But when we look at the swords, they're just in the ground. They're an illusion, and perhaps a person could wiggle out of this. At the very least, the person can walk away and get help. So remember that. Call on your resources, your inner strength, and walk out of a situation that isn't working. And remember that most of the traps are in our own brains. All right, so now we'll end with the Tree Keeper's card, and what came up, I love this, is Keeper of Play. And I know we've had this one before. Just like a tree's limbs can support a swing of joy, your arms can hold a great deal of play. Too often our own limbs are weighted down by responsibility, demand, guilt, or shame. It's time to construct a swing of joy in your heart. Remember your inner 3-year-old who stood on her head or hung from the monkey bars just for the joy of the tactile experience. This wasn't mere folly. The Tree Keepers knew that play opens pathways to problem solving and creative genius. It's not just for the enjoyment of the inner child. It's also essential for the outer adult. Fill your arms with the lightness of play, and possibilities will take flight. Doors will appear where there were only walls. And I really do feel that that applies very well to this week. Again, clear that stuff out, have some playtime, however that works for you, and get into that lightness of being. So thank you so much for being here again. Beloveds, I'm wishing you the best week possible. Please like the video if you do. Please maybe share it with others, and I will see you again in 7 days.